Hello and welcome to the Authority of Love. I'm Greg Williams, your host, and normally on Wednesdays for Women, you know that we have Miss Adia Wushner, Executive Director of Kentucky Right to Life on. But let me tell you something. Today we had a March for Life, the first Kentucky March for Life here in our capital city of Frankfort, marching right up to the steps of the Capitol and into the rotunda. And there were many wonderful speakers and guests and songs. It was incredible. I think you guys would agree with me, right, before I introduce you, right?
Absolutely.
And so during the process, Adia and I knew that she would have some obligations and some things that she had to do. And so when I heard Crystal give her testimony, and her husband, Dusty, is a pastor at Search for Truth.
Spirit of Truth.
Yeah, there you go. Spirit of Truth. We just met, and I'm so glad we did. Spirit of Truth in Somerset, Kentucky,
Yes.
right?
Yes, Spirit of Truth Outreach, Somerset,
Outreach,
Kentucky.
Spirit of Truth Outreach. So if you're looking for that down in Somerset, visit them, and I know they'd love to have you, but I've been excited to meet them and to hear from them, and what you're going to hear is incredible. So I'm just going to say this. First of all, welcome, Dusty and Crystal.
Thank you.
Thank you for joining. This testimony will blow you away, and it's biblical in the sense that God desired marriages and families to be the vehicle through which discipleship begins, and then churches get strengthened. And what you're going to hear today is incredible. So I'm going to just pitch it to you all. Crystal, you gave the testimony at the March for Life,
Right.
and I want you to share a little of that. Dusty, you chime in, and I'm going to let you guys take it. I might have a question or two, but I'm going to let you guys take it. So have at it.
Yeah, so the reason why I'm here is because we have a lot of debate about the rape and incest with abortion.
Exceptions,
and,
right?
You know, how that's going to be the exception for abortions, and our pro-life caucus is fighting against that, fighting for the mothers too, but fighting for those children to have a chance at life. And the reason why Adia had me here is to be the face of those that were conceived out of rape, because that's how I was conceived. I shared down there that it was back in '77 when my mother was 18, and she had been introduced to a young man that was playing and singing in a band, and
A Christian band, right?
No.
Oh, okay.
No.
Right.
Oh, no.
Not even
It was-
close.
I kind of gathered that, right?
Not
So,
even
yeah,
close.
I understand.
No.
I understand.
But I mean, it's good to ask to be specific about that. So, you know, after they met, he had made advances, and she didn't want any part of that because of the lifestyle, and he didn't take no, and he, just to be very blunt and truthful, he held a knife to her throat and he attacked her, and then, you know, took her to a motel, and my mother had to endure this, you know, and through that she conceived me.
That act, right?
Oh yes,
Yeah,
and
in
that
that
act of
vicious
brutality
act.
against my
Yes.
mom, who, you know, she's a sweetheart. Now she's feisty.
That's
But
okay.
She's
That's
a
all right.
sweetheart, and
I see where you get it from.
well,
then.
yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Is that right, Dusty?
Yes.
Definitely.
Yes,
Definitely.
the Lord knew that I needed him because he could put up with it. But with that being said, my mother at that time, you know, she had left her family home and went 2,000 miles away with other family and friends because she was hurt. And she
sure.
didn't feel safe in that environment, not with my grandparents, but just being in that area.
Right.
And it was a few months later, after she had, you know, found out she was pregnant, everything, my grandmother knew that something was wrong. And she had been praying for my mom. And my mom called her and let her know, you know, she said, "Mom, I'm pregnant," told her the circumstances, the situation. And my grandmother immediately told her, said, "I knew something was wrong, I've been praying for you. Come home and have that baby." You know, so my mother went back home to her parents and had me. And like I shared this morning, my mother called me at 5:25 a.m. this morning and shared the news that my grandmother passed this very morning at 3 a.m.
Now we're recording this on the day before at the
Yes.
Capitol, so that you know, if you're listening,
Yes.
if you're watching, you'll see we're in one of the rooms at the Capitol.
Yes.
But this morning on the
January
23rd,
23rd,
January 23rd today.
Yes.
Yeah, and this is recording
Yes.
and posting on the 24th
Okay.
radio
yes.
broadcast. So,
on the
just, yeah,
23rd, the morning of coming to
of
the
the life,
Capitol,
March for Life.
is whenever we received this news.
Mm-hmm.
And I honestly, I felt like maybe I should just stay home. I'm grieving here. My husband's trying to console me and everything. But I told him, he said, you know, he's like, "What do you want to do?" And I knew what my grandmother would have me do. And so
Was she feisty too?
Yeah. He actually lived
It's a
with
long line?
Yes, he lived with my grandmother and my grandfather while we were engaged. He lived with
yeah.
them for a few months. So
Right.
they were just wonderful people. And with that said, my grandfather's already passed. Grandmother passed away this morning. So we came anyway because I knew that's what she would want, because she told my mother, you know, you come home, have the baby. And my mother told me years ago, she said, share our story. She said, if it helps even one young woman that doesn't know whether they should choose life for their child, that doesn't have hope, she said, share it with them and let them know
And-
there's hope.
Let me say something here just real quick, and you can kind of interject on this.
Go ahead, sweetie.
If you can see Crystal on the podcast, Crystal's pretty brown. Her mom's whiter than sour cream. Now this was
Yes, my mom is
This-
a white woman.
this was mid 70s. And you know, there was a lot of taboo if you were a single woman raising a child, if you were a single woman with a child of another color. She could have went, you know, a complete other direction. Her mom was even advised to by some people. But
Yes.
Yeah, my mother
Yes.
was advised to
her
go
mom,
ahead
as
and
Crystal
abort me.
said, she'll tell you, you know, Crystal, she's innocent in this, and she wanted to raise her and give her life. Now, I'm Crystal's husband. I benefited from all this. You know.
And
But,
she said she benefited too, about you.
I
too. That's
benefited
right.
from all
I heard
this.
that.
But you know, it just, I guess, kind of shows that it doesn't stop there. You know,
Right.
that's good. But and as Crystal will tell, you know, she married me back in '96.
Yeah.
And you know, we've got 3 wonderful children. We've got 3 wonderful grandchildren. We pastor a church in Somerset, Kentucky. Both of us are very active in ministry, especially her. She's got ability to talk to people, you
Yes.
know, and
Yeah.
just love people that I really just admire. So, you know, whatever situation you have may be very hard, but life is worth it. I would hate to think of a world without Crystal York, my wife.
Yeah.
She's a
Yeah.
wonderful person. I mean,
Make
she's
me
touched
cry.
a lot of
Yeah,
people.
me too.
She's,
Yeah.
I would hate to think of what my life would have been like to have never known her.
And your kids.
And my
And your
children.
grandkids.
And
There's that
grandchildren.
generational
Yeah.
legacy that I heard you speaking
Absolutely.
about, and you've
Yes.
just reinforced that. So continue, Crystal, because
Yes.
thank you, Dustin. That was
Yeah.
fabulous.
And that's the thing, like Dustin was saying, you know, now we have our children, we have our grandchildren, and he so lovingly put it, you know, we wouldn't have each other. We don't understand the bigger picture. And that's the thing that I try to explain to people, is seeing the bigger picture. Is seeing that it just doesn't stop there. If you stop that life, then how many
Oh yeah.
generations of
So like It's a
world
Wonderful Life,
changes?
right?
Oh, yeah.
But
There
it's
you
sort of like
go.
It's a Wonderful
There
Life,
you
the
go.
movie, right?
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
a great
That's the
analogy.
point of it,
Yes,
yeah.
And so I'm just so thankful for it. And like Dustin had said, I was already had Devin
Yep.
whenever I talked to my mother about this, and I asked her the question. I said, "Why did you choose life?" Because honestly, Brother Gregory, she would have been looking into the face of the man that attacked her. I'm 50% of the DNA of the man that brought her harm and brought her all of this on her that she's had to carry all these years. You know, when she's had to look at my face. Now, I'm for adoption. She could have put me up for adoption. I would have been thankful for life. But her parents were strong Christian people, and they
Your
helped
grandmother?
her. My
Oh,
grandmother, my
absolutely.
grandfather.
And Papa-
So she
Grandpa
chose to
too.
keep me. And so with that being said, I remember asking her this question, and you know, she didn't hesitate one time. She didn't blink an eye. She simply looked at me and she said, as if, I can't believe why you'd ask me this.
Yeah.
She simply said, "You were innocent."
That's great.
And I'll never forget the impact. And when I came back and told Dustin that, you know, the impact that it had on me and my children, you know, there's times where my children have stood up for pro-life. There's times when my daughter's been attacked online because she stood up for pro-life, and just different
Mine has as well.
situations in our
Yeah.
family that we're thankful that people chose life in our family, because their situations could have easily went the other
Yeah.
way. So with that being said, I hope that this will be shared to even one woman that is expecting and you don't have hope, and you feel like, well, I can't love this child, or you feel like, well, you know, it's an inconvenience to me, or you're just scared. I just want to give you hope today that I am a face representing an inconvenience. I'm a face representing trauma. I'm a face representing something that you may not want to look at or want to give birth to. I'm here to tell you that through Jesus there is hope. My life has not been perfect. I could tell you stories, but that's for another time.
Hey,
But with
join
that
the-
being
join the
said,
race.
there you
Yeah,
go.
right,
Just like I said down there in the middle of the Capitol,
Yes.
life is hard, Brother Gregory. It doesn't matter if your parents wanted you or not. You're going to face adversity. The Bible never promised us an easy road.
Amen.
He promised us grace.
Yeah.
His grace is
He
sufficient.
would see us through
And
it.
yes, and the Lord has seen me through all of these things.
There's a persona that goes along with this, and I've heard a lot of people that I love who are, I guess, kind of pro-abortion, and they say, well, why would we want to bring a baby into a world that all these problems exist, and under a situation like Crystal, where the mom was attacked, and the baby's a product of that, they say they'll have this shame, there'll be all this rejection, and again, I'm not trying to, but it's one thing to say that, but you need to know that baby, like my wife, can grow up and have a wonderful and impactful life.
Yeah.
And
And a marriage.
she is a person,
And
Yeah.
children.
and children,
Yes.
Grandchildren. It's
and
beautiful.
ministry.
It's beautiful.
Ministry.
Absolutely.
And the people that even her and my daughter, they'll sing on social media.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
the people that'll just chime in and say that, that helped me or you touched me. And life is worth it. Absolutely worth it.
Well, and Crystal, you've said a couple of times, if you could just reach one, and I agree with that, because discipleship, which I
Oh, yeah.
talk a lot about, relationship, discipleship, our tagline is building every life and relationship on the love and lordship of Jesus Christ.
Yeah, yeah.
Yes, if we could reach one, but I'm praying that legislators and pastors and those
Yes.
people who can influence others will listen to your story, your all story, your family generational legacy that God's given you, and say, how could we ever stop that?
Yeah.
Just because it inconvenienced or just because there was a tragedy that began it, we're going to stop it.
Sure.
I talk often about God's truth is not affected by our circumstances, our emotions, our desires, or our relationships.
Yeah, yeah.
It remains the same. So we need to, as Christians, as believers, we need to stand on that. And your mom did that.
Yeah.
Your
yeah.
grandparents prayed for that.
Yeah.
And you guys are a product, and now we're talking 5 generations there
Yeah.
right now.
Oh,
Yeah.
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 And a lot of happiness, man.
Amen.
A lot of happiness.
A lot of joy.
Yes.
lot of joy
Yeah,
in the midst of it.
there's so much more good than
Yeah.
there was bad.
Yeah.
I mean, you
Absolutely.
can look at our family, and you know what? We are not perfect. We are full of flaws.
for yourself.
But he says, he always says in church, I have this one hair that won't lay down.
I barely have more than one now. I'm pretty bald.
But the thing about that is that God sometimes works best in our flaws, because in our weakness, He's made
That's-
strong. And
Always
so,
does. That's
yes,
exactly
and
right.
So if anybody feels like they have to be perfect to carry the message, they simply have to believe on Jesus. Not just believe in Him, but believe on Him. Walk with Him.
Crystal, that'll
And
preach.
they can
Yeah.
they mean something. Those who are born to parents who wanted them, those born to parents that didn't want them,
Yeah.
they have a message, they have a story. And I always tell people that I'm trying to counsel, be the pen in God's hand that reaches down into the story of somebody.
Yeah.
And that real bad chapter, that real bad sentence, be that pen that says, but God.
And you know what?
Reach
I'll
them.
close with this. We're
Go
about out of
ahead.
time.
Yes.
Joel 2:25 says, I will repay
Yes.
the years the
Yes.
locusts have eaten away.
Yes,
But people
yes.
don't go on. Who sent the locusts?
Mm-hmm.
God Himself sent the
Yeah,
locusts.
yeah.
The
Yeah.
locusts. Why? Because He's always faithful. Even if He has to send what you ask for in a fallen world, He can still restore it and redeem it.
That's
Amen.
right.
And that's what we're talking about. Thank
That's
you all
good.
for
Thank
joining
you.
us. Thanks for
Thank
your
you.
prayers. Thanks always to the Lord. Make it a great day, and God bless in Christ. Stay tuned at 12:45 for my good friend Greg Horn. And Hope is here. I'm Greg Williams, and you're listening to The Authority of Love.